Hey everyone, so what we're gonna be making today is this cute little frog um, with the leaf, and I will have the leaf, I will post it, will probably be under my link to buy me coffee. I'll put it there because it's a place that I can link, have those things that I need to link. Also, I was going to try to make almost like a diagram of the shapes for the frog, and I think that would be helpful. I'll put it there again. It's free for anyone to use it. So, this is the leaf that I sketched, um, and I already traced mine, but I will take a picture of these and put it in there on the under the Buy Me Coffee. So I traced this one, and you can do the same. Now, when you print it, you can adjust your scale. This one is probably like 5 inches across, and it's going to be bent, so it's going to be a little smaller, and then it shrinks, so you end up being about this size. By the time you bend the edges, and I'll show you how I do that, how I shape the leaf. As you can see, this one is a little bit smaller, the one that is ready. So that's why I made it bigger. And I had it covered the clay so it wouldn't dry quickly. And right now I'm not going to worry about the stem of the leaf, just to mark the outline. And anyways, you make what you like to make. This frog, I don't know if it is a toad. I saw a picture online and he's kind of big. So I studied the body first before I start sculpting. And as you know, the red-eye tree frog is very skinny. His body is almost like his head is bigger than his body. And I look for any cartilage or whatever they call it that they have here on the back to shape it, and how the legs are shaped and everything like that. So this one is the first time that I made one that is like this kind. So, but I thought he was cute, and then have him roll his eyes, at the pumpkin. Just thought it was funny. You can use any X-Acto knife. I like using this one. I do have another one that I use as well when I forget what this one is. But this one is from Slice, and I'll put the link. These blades are actually made out of ceramic. They're really sharp, but they won't hurt you, the blades. And the advantage of these is that they will never rust, as some other ones that are metal, those will rust. But a lot of times with all my tools, if I lose track of where my tools are, I end up using the other one that I have, which is, it works as well. But if you want one that will last you a long time, like this one, I've had it for years. I haven't had to replace the blade yet. It's a little bit more expensive, but I will certainly put the link. Another one that I use is that Fiskar, I think is the brand, and definitely cheaper. It works as well. Um, so yeah, I have a lot of waste here, but I'll use it for something else. And my slab, this clay here is about 1/4 of an inch thick. This clay is speckled brown stone. by high water clay. That's what I'm using. So I'm just smoothing the edges with the plastic. Sometimes it's easier. It's smoothing it out. You can also just use a little bit of water and run your fingers around the edges. So this would be my good side. I am gonna go ahead and carve just a little bit, not too deep. I'm not trying to make something completely straight. I'm waving it a little bit. Okay, so I've made this mold myself. You can use it inside for something. I'm used more on the outside here. I just threw this piece as a bowl, and then I trimmed it, round. And I should have it in different sizes, but I don't. So that's why sometimes I look for other things that aren't really a mold, that I use as a mold, like a lid of something. Um, so now I'm just pressing, and it tends to crack in here. So I'm gonna put a little water and press it. Every time you have something that comes to a V, I always like to go in and make a U instead of a V, because it creates like a stress point on the clay, but that's where it usually cracks. So if you make a U with whatever tool you got that can do that, like this, and I'll put the link of everything that I'm using here. I do have an Amazon affiliate links, so I'll post that on my description of everything I'm using. But yeah, something like this. I love this tool. I just make it rounded to eliminate the stress here right at that point. Eliminate the chances of cracking. And I'm just doing the same thing here with the edges, just rounding them. You can use a plastic. You think it's easier. Sometimes you can glide your fingers a little easier on the clay. So now what I like to do is create a little ring right there, which will be the foot. Just marking where that's gonna go right there. I'm gonna let this dry a little bit while we make the frog. Most of my sculptures are all hollow, except for something very, very tiny. Like if I was making this pumpkin that size, I probably wouldn't make it hollow, but in my little frogs, they're like real miniature. I could just make it solid, but anything bigger than that, I make it hollow inside. So, like I said, the clay should be soft enough for you to make a pinch pot. So, just looking at here the size that I used, trying to make about the same size. I'm gonna start by kind of making an elongated pinch pot, almost like an egg shape. I'm gonna trim the excess here. And once I get to the shape that I want, then I'll pause the video, but I will probably speed up because, you know, it can be a real long video, and I don't want to make this a super long video. And you get the idea of the shape that I'm going for. So I want to see if this is about the size, taking in consideration that it is going to shrink. I think my roller had some pieces of white clay still in there. So I'm getting some spots, but I'm not going to worry about that because this is just a demo. So what I do, I'm going to wet it. I'm going to wet this a little bit on both sides because this part is going to match that part. And I'm going to push in just to get a little bit of curve. Like so. Now, I'm going to go with my knife, trying to make as flat as you can. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just to give it a little surface to adhere to for the two surfaces that will come together. Like that. And I am going to put a little water, score. Again, it does not have to be precise. And I'm just going to put this here just so I can see how it fits into that. Like that. And I'm going to trim. I'm going to do the same thing here. You can use some vinegar or magic water, anything you used to, just for the joints. I do that sometimes. If I see that the clay is soft enough, I don't use vinegar. It will just attach. But if you're worried about the seam, you can use a little vinegar. Use whatever method you're used to attach two pieces together. The nice thing is when two pieces are really sealed, there is air trapped in there, and that's when you start to shape. your frog. So right now we just have somewhat of an egg shape. Go over with a wet sponge just to smooth it out. Okay, so now the idea is you start making the head to separate the head from the body. The body is a little bit more rounded here as it goes to the bottom part, because he has a little bit of a more rounded bottom, and then the head you start squeezing a little more. I'm almost like choking it with the with this finger here, wrapping it around and looking it towards me so I can see how it's starting to shape the head. So you give it a little squeeze, and I am starting to make a line here where the joint was, so I'm just making it, smoothing it out. Then the bottom, I'm making it so it's not so elongated. I'm pushing it so it's a little bit more rounded here, like that. And shaping the head a little more. So I want the head to go up a little bit. This is underneath the head, so I'm pushing it a little bit like this. So I know this is kind of very rough still, but head right here, body being a little bit roundish in here. Now I start rounding these two, creating some, they have this almost like a little bit more of a cartilage here that sticks out a little bit on the body. So I'm going to add a little bit of clay here. Same thing on the other side. So that's his back. Has a little bit of a hunch in there. And that's, I guess, what runs here in the middle. I don't know if they have a spine or it's a skeleton, but I know that sometimes you see a little hunch, and that's these two parts right here that we just added, and then rounded bottom, like so. So now I am going to add clay for his eyes. Trying to get the same amount of clay. And then if we need more, we can add more, but about, I don't know, maybe a little piece that is like about 1/4 of an inch ball of clay. Now you see that on these I'm not doing the scoring and adding slip on these. So this is just like on top of his eyes, has that little bump. Like that. His mouth is going to be right in the part that I said I was doing like this, and then it's almost where the joint is on the two parts that we made. So and just look in the front and make sure that it is somewhat symmetrical. I'm gonna raise this one. He has a little triangular shape right here by the nose, and it's a little bit raised, so I'm just adding that a little bit in there, as you see. I hope you can see that, the little detail there where the nose is just a little raised, and it blends in with this eye, the bump on the eyes, like that. And then for his eyes, you don't have something like this that has a dowel that has those spheres at the end, just use anything like this. Also works. It's another one that I use, but it's plastic, or you can use the wooden ones. It does the same thing. Making the indent, this eye socket. And I'm going to actually see how I can do this. I'm going to poke a little hole to let some air out so I can flatten this part a little bit more. So sometimes all you need is a little bit of hole. And I'm going to make it right where the mouth is, and then I'm going to close it. And the reason again is so that I can flatten this, because the air is trapped in there. And I wanted to flatten his right here a little bit under his mouth. So now I'm gonna make his mouth. And his nostrils. Oops. You have to be looking right in front of it to make sure it's even. I don't think this side is even, so let me do it again. There and there. There, I think that's better. Now the eyes are going to be just 2 little balls of clay. Again, the same thing when we were making these, try to make somewhat the same size. Let's see now. Yeah, I like that. So now for his arms. I think I'm gonna do the back legs first. So I'm making one coil where it's a little skinnier at the ends, a little thicker in the middle. And I'm going to cut that right in half, and that will be for his legs. Oops, there. It off. So this is the part that's going to attach here. So I'm going to make a, let's see. It goes forward first, then back, then under. So I'm gonna make a cut, a mark right here. It's where I'm going to fold. I'm just gonna put a little bit of water in there and bend like so. It tends to split a little bit here, and you just kind of go over and smooth it out with your fingers. And these will come under. Again, just adding just a little bit of water and bending it. Yeah, it kind of look weird, but it is right. It's like this. Like a zigzag. Again, the clay tends to split a little bit here. You just go over with your fingers to smooth it out, forming like the joints. You know, you kind of press the clay a little bit. Same thing here. And this here, I'm going to score right here. Right here. Where this is going to be attached. Like that. And then we'll do the feet. So this one gonna be back. Same thing. Without the cracks that happens. A little bit of water. Yeah. And then under for this piece right here of his leg. And you get the same thing. You always get these little cracks and you just need to smooth it out. Now this also depends on how you want your frog, what kind of position you want. I'm making it so that he's just like on that position right there. Sometimes I put one leg stretched out so you can change the position that you want your frog to be by changing the legs, you know. But just for the sake of this demo, I am making it so that it looks kind of like the other one that I had. Oops. Just scoring. Make sure that you have a good attachment there, so you won't get like cracks as it dries. There. So those are his legs. And then the arms. I do the same thing as the leg. You want a coil that is a little bit wider in the middle and then a little bit skinnier towards the ends. Even though his arm might be too long, but we'll trim it. So about there. And this a little bit there. Because I still have his hands to place it. So I think this is good. I cut these on an angle. And then bend a little bit. Sometimes you can do a little cut like that just to remove a little piece of clay from there. It makes it easier for the bend. Just a little. And that's going to be his arm, which his arm is always real close to the head. So, oops, put him back there. I'm going to cut a little bit more on an angle here. All right, so now I can use a little bit of scoring. And it will be right there. Adding a little coil here. So here I'm making the other arm and attaching it just like I did the other side. And I use a little clay piece just as a support underneath. This is a a stamp that I carved to make the hands and feet of the frog, and that saves me quite a bit of time. I will put the link of the video I have where how to make your own stamps, which is very helpful. I will put the link in my description if any of you are interested in seeing that. If you don't have a stamp, you can also just make it by doing little coils for the toes or the fingers. I don't know if that's what they call it, but that's what I'm calling it. Or you can do also slip trailing. I've done it both ways. I just like using the stamp, and I have it in two different sizes. So it depends on the size of my frog is what I use. It just comes out always nice, and I don't have to do too much cleaning up around the hands, and it's just really attaching to wherever I'm attaching the frog. Sometimes I even attach the hands and feet first on the surface, and then I will attach the arm to it. In this case, I attach the hands before the hands and the feet. And now I'm just going to attach him to the leaf just by, you just score. I didn't even use slip. I just used a little bit of water because the clay is still pretty soft at this stage. I used a little bit of just a rolled up paper towel, tissue paper you can use underneath his head just to support the weight so that his arms are kind of thin. So I always do that so that I won't get any cracks. So I decided to add the pumpkin. I just think it looks cuter with the pumpkin. And I forgot to add my slip. So I'll go ahead and add it here. I think that's enough. So now he's done. I'm gonna let it dry a little bit more until I cover. Oh, and here on this stem, I made it real short now because before as it was curled, it looked like the frog had a tail because of the position I put the frog facing down that way, facing back. I really should have, as you can see here, I put it kind of like sideways. I should have done that and I wasn't paying attention, so now it's kind of late. I mean, I don't feel like, detaching him and moving it. So I'm gonna leave it like that. And that's why I cut the stem short for the leaf. And that's all.